To talk to you, and I want to bring in now Dana Bash, our political commentator, of course, our chief Capitol Hill correspondent, along with political commentator and radio host Ben Ferguson and the communications director for the Republican National Committee, Sean Spicer. Sean, I want to start with you, given what Peter King just said. So you have Peter King just coming out and saying Ted Cruz is a fraud. You have this what's going on in your party: anger, nasty words. It's not a good conversation for the GOP.
Well, I think we are a party that is growing and on the move, and we've got room for people like Peter King and people like Ted Cruz. I think the only way we're going to continue to grow as a party is if we have a lot of voices in the party that are continue to reach out to different elements of Americans that are frustrated with what's going on in Washington, that want to grow the economy, that want to reduce the debt. The one thing that I'd point out to you, Aaron, and I think this is important to sometimes take a step back and say, where are we? Yep. And it's this. I think regardless of what happened last night, it's a Republican district that will be held by a Republican. And we, by all estimations, right now we sit at 233 seats in the House of Representatives. The NRCC, our sister committee that's in charge of it, announced the drive for 245. We think we can get as many as 245 seats. And in the Senate, we're on the verge of taking that over from the Democrats. So with all of the talk today about Eric Cantor, at the end of the day, we look at where we're headed as a party. It's growing in the House. Yep. It's growing in the Senate. And I think that's a very positive sign for the party. So I would just argue that, yes, as there are some inter-party struggles that happen from time to time, but as Peter King pointed out correctly, this is one district, and I think we have to look at every district and say, what was the specific deal, what were the specific instances within that, but then look at the party as a large, and we're continuing to grow our numbers in the House and the Senate.
Dana, what's interesting, though, is that Eric Cantor, for a lot of people, was not considered to be a moderate, all right? Eric Cantor was someone who had flirted with the Tea Party a lot. So now Eric Cantor is too moderate for to remain in Congress. It's a pretty incredible statement in some ways. And Peter King coming out and calling Ted Cruz a fraud is not the kind of thing we are used to hearing. This shows a level of frustration and anger on Capitol Hill that is new.
That's right. And look, I mean, Sean knows this. Democrats generally, at least elected officials, don't call each other frauds. They have divisions within their party, but they don't go that far. Now, I know Sean will say that this is a good thing because there's an active debate in the Republican Party, but it does speak to the big challenge. You said it, Aaron. Eric Cantor is no liberal. He's no moderate. He is really conservative, and for a very long time, up until maybe 5 minutes ago, he was really the liaison, effectively, between the leadership and the Tea Party. He was one of the people who tried to stop John Boehner from making a deal, a big fiscal deal, which I know you were really focused on, because he was worried about what it would do to the right wing of the party. So it is very, very difficult. It's not just that. There's so much more, particularly the whole question of Politics 101 going home.
Ben, does this mean the rise of the Tea Party is now a big story again? Because it was the death of the Tea Party a few months ago.
But Ted Cruz didn't win last night. You had a guy that won against Eric Cantor, and the reason why he won is because Eric Cantor became too obsessed with being the next Speaker of the House, and he forgot the core of being connected with your district, and they didn't like the way they were being treated by him. He had a lot of staffers around him and a lot of people in the district that were very arrogant. They were very cocky. They were very condescending to any new member of Congress, especially hardcore conservatives, and that's why he lost his seat. I mean, look at Peter King a moment ago. He didn't learn a darn thing from last night, which tells you why guys like him now are starting to lose control. It's because even when people are saying, you're not paying attention to us, they come on TV and they mock their own colleagues, and that's why they're losing control of the base. The Republican Party is growing. It's just Tea Party guys that are coming in, and these guys are going out.
Well, I mean, Sean, part of the reason they're mocking the conservatives that are out there in their base is that in order to govern, you have to pass laws. And thanks in part to some in the Tea Party, laws aren't getting passed.
Well, look, I mean, David Brat won last night, and he made it very clear that he campaigned as a Republican on Republican principles, that he had some Tea Party support, but he didn't think it was direct. I mean, that it wasn't major groups coming in. I think that to Ben's point, he's right. It's getting back to your district, representing them. I think that there is frustration on both sides with what is and is not happening in Washington. That's going to be a big issue. But I will say this, and I don't mean to be off topic, but last night, one of the things that got overlooked, and you want to talk about problems, I think we are growing. That's a fact. But you look at Nevada, for example, a state state that's a swing state controlled by the Majority Leader Harry Reid. None of the above won the Democratic primary there. So if I were a party coming out of tonight as the Democrats, and you look at some of the things that happened on their side that have been overshadowed today, the Democratic nominee for governor was none of the above. They actually have a choice there in Nevada, and that's who won the top spot in the Democratic nomination. So I sit back today and look and say, okay, who would I rather have that problem with? I think that we're in a good spot. I'm more concerned about what's going on their side.
All right. Well, of course, that's your job to try to spin it like that as opposed to talking about the big divides on your side. So a good effort there. But Dana, you were at Eric Carner's press conference today, and you had an exchange with him, and I just wanted to play a little bit of that and then elaborate on that. Here we go.
You personally, I'm sure you've done some reflecting in the past 24 hours. Do you think that maybe you spent too much time here with your job as leader, tending to your rank and file and not tending enough to your constituents back home?
You know, I was in my district every week. So, there's a balance between holding a leadership position and serving constituents at home, but never was there a day did I not put the constituents of the 7th District of Virginia first, and I will continue to do so.
So, Ben, what's the bottom line for the Tea Party?
Yeah. Well, the Tea Party needs to keep doing exactly what they're doing. Smile, grin, get grassroots out there, and go after any seat that they feel someone's not paying attention in their district. And Eric Cantor is proof that you didn't even need money. The guy only had $200,000. I mean, the article that summed it up for me was you had Eric Cantor spend almost $200,000 at 2 dinners at steakhouses. And this guy's entire campaign was funded with $200,000. That should be the total story is that's how out of touch you are. And Eric Cantor may have slept in his bed at his house in his district, but he didn't humble himself and go talk to the people that were disgruntled. He didn't go to the Kiwanis meetings. He didn't meet with the Tea Party people. He didn't meet with people that are upset with him because he thought he was better than they were, and they sent him packing. And everyone else, including Peter King, should take notice of that today. If they don't, they're going to be in trouble too.
The one thing that I will say, the one thing that I will say to that, just to talking to Eric Cantor and his people today, is, in his defense, he would argue it's not that he felt that he was better than they were. It's that he had another big job here, which, I mean, the irony of all ironies is that he wasn't down in his district on primary day. He was here in the Capitol. Maybe it was a mistake, but one of the things he was doing in the Washington area was having a fundraiser for other members of Congress. He spent a lot of time doing the things you need to do as a leader, and that includes helping other members while, in his backyard, didn't do enough.
Right, thanks to all three of you. And the question is, who took down Eric Cantor? Was it really rabid conservatives or, well, Democrats? Plus,